Good evening and welcome to Edessa the Dark Crusade. This scene is a follow-up scene. This is a scene that takes place just as the form of Grandfather, a monster seemingly made a monster seemingly made out of, well, fire, molten stone, whatever the case, terrifying, and has eluded the kindred that tried to stop it, which raises quite a few concerning ideas.
It does indeed.
And, well, Garland has just stormed after, the direction of where the newest member of Clan Nosferatu came or went after he was suddenly all fine and no longer in the grips of the frenzy. But back in this alley that is still no people around, but, well, there are two kindred, or Canaanites, sorry. Mina is standing, and now she has a better chance to look at it. It's very dark, and that's mainly because most of the walkway is filled with this icky, like, thick, almost ink thick uh, darkness, shadow. Uh, it's no light comes through it. She can't see through it. It's solid, like to see through, but it seems to move. From what little she's just seen, like most of it seems to just like it passes through like small objects and stuff. Like it doesn't seem to be that solid. It seems to be almost like a liquid or something.
Huh. And you said this is spanning over how much space?
Quite a bit.
Truth be told, you know, Dagon just struck off very confidently in a particular direction. Garland is gone, running after him in annoyance. And, well, she isn't, strangely enough, looking up to see what the deal is with Madeleine, who was left up on the rooftops, at least to her knowledge. Mina is just standing. There's not enough evidence there for it to cause a bunch of ruckus. So
Hmm.
she is still pulled back off to one side of the street. Um and just staring at
Uh,
the spot where both at the spot where grandfather, as it were, the horned man, faded into the ground, and probably should that inky blackness shift in the slightest, twitching a glance towards it. But all in all, seeming unusually still, and the most motion that's going to come from her, besides the feigned rhythmic breathing, will be periodically her reaching up to tuck her hair behind her ear or kind of swat as
hmm.
if annoyed by buzzing, as if harried by gnats or something.
The the icky mass, it seems, just seems to stay where the grandfather just zoomed into the earth. Not very long, and then it kind of seems to just seep into one side of the alley and just ever so slowly creep up towards you. Um, but it looks as though it's trying to compress itself, so it fills less of the street. It is, granted, it is dark. Like this isn't the most well lit place in the world, so but you can clearly make out that this oily cloud almost is just ever so slightly just beginning to move towards you.
And she will closely watch. For some reason or another, normally she's so flighty, but her feet stay very firmly planted, and particularly as it starts to move. Um,
Are you using obfuscate?
she's not.
Hmm.
She is just standing.
Hmm.
And as the inky mass shifts, especially since it shifts in her direction, she finally fully snaps her stare from one point to the other. And the stare is very sharp, very keen, essentially, to represent the fact that she is, because it is free, is expending aspects to keep a very, very keen eye on it and try to make sure she can differentiate, to keep an eye on the edges and where they go. But she'll even still the hand, just kind of resting so that she has one arm across her chest, the hand grasping at the elbow, and the hand that's been up alongside her face kind of stills to rest against her jawline, and she stares. Not playfully. There's still a bit of a glint there, especially as it comes closer, but
Hmm.
keenly watches.
You will hear a low, like it's as it comes up and closer to you, it will begin to just compress, and you will hear like this. It sounds like someone who's growling something. Probably like if Darth Vader was growling,
Sounds
like it sounds weird, but you can make out some words. It just says,
like rolling gravel. Fabulous.
yeah, like, but you will hear, like, it's not very loud, but it's there, and you can hear it just, come now, child. No need to be afraid.
To be fair, a lot of people call her child. So the stare, not glaring per se, but the stare doesn't leave off. On the other hand, she's not running. That seems good? Question
Um,
mark.
well, you'll as it get close to you, you can begin to feel as much as vampires feel like it gets colder. Like you can feel like the night air is one thing, but well, it doesn't really bother you, but you can definitely feel like the temperature begins to decline because whatever this is, it's cold.
And actually, you said the voice was fairly low.
Hmm.
Yeah, she will again. She's still not moving, still staring, but she makes that kind of swatting motion again by her ear.
Hmm. The form begins to come very close to you in this like little, but it seems to compress even more, and like about 2 meters from you, uh, it begins to materialize and begins to become thicker and thicker and rather fast, like in a like it almost seems like a couple of moments. The shadows all like this thing just condenses enough so that you see a person forming. And very soon it's very apparent that Madeline is standing right before you in this corner. She just smiles.
And 2 meters is definitely distant enough that she's not going to act. That's well out of quote reach. So she'll stare right up until the thing properly resolves into the familiar face, at which point she immediately snaps a glance up to said face, and the eyes narrow ever so slightly, not suspiciously so much as peering. And are her eyes blacked out or normal?
They are normal. And she just smiles and just says, I hope I did not unnerve you.
No, no, I'm fine.
Hmm, that is good to hear. And Madeline just smiles and just says, terrible shame with grandfather. We will have to find him another way.
You did it wrong.
I know. Was not my call, shall we say. But
And hmm, is Madeline remaining that distance away?
she just smiles and just, should we move on? There will not be anything that will be problematic if anyone finds it.
And she'll shoot a glance back to the ground, where things are, well, I guess, fairly back to normal.
It looks
Um,
like something might have gotten burned, but other than that, I don't think there's
oh,
any.
that's right. There's just those kind of slaggy remains. Ooh.
This, like someone burned something here, and that's about what you could gather if you were, unless you, of course, you saw what happened. But if you didn't, well, that's really all that's left. So
Yeah, there will be just a very, very mild kind of nod of agreement, and she'll start traipsing closer. She still doesn't have that blooming energy. It's a very calm, very straight stride.
Madeline, um, squats down, um, like bends her knees and just sits, not sits down, but just squats down in her knees. So she's at kind of a level with her and just says, "It is not always that people, well, totally find my what you saw as something they can accept just seeing it the first time. You're doing remarkably well, all things considered."
And she's still a little I guess the best term is kind of flat. And she'll just kind of absently nod.
Hmm. Is something the matter?
She kind of finally flicks a glance up. And especially with her close enough, will again shoot the glance, a familiar sort of glance towards her eyes. And that weirdly shallow one. But mellows very, very slightly. Loses just a touch of the stiff edge. A lot happened, sister.
Indeed it did.
Have you met that other one before, sister?
Sorry, have you met what?
Have you met that other one before?
Oh, the loud one? No. And I would have expected that, well, I would have heard of him or been able to hear him if it was someone who has been here for a long time, but then again, Clan Nosferatu is not, well, always the most sociable.
Is it not strange that one horned man, both of them, just melted?
I do not know what it was or is, but it seems quite wise to avoid it in the future, if we get a choice in the matter. Yes, what it sprayed out, it didn't seem indeed to burn. An elder of Clan Nosferatu was dead. Quite unnerving.
And the lips kind of firm into a bit of a line there. The statement of rank and whatnot. Or status, I guess.
Mm.
Yes, I'll be careful. Kind of tilts her head on the last word. And again, it's still something she does. There's no real rhythm or pattern to when she does it. Just now and again, flicks the hand past her ear. Sometimes, sometimes just tucking her hair, as opposed to tucking, untucking, etc.
Mm. Madeline seems to quite intently study her, for lack of a better word.
Do
Seems
feel
to
free.
just look at her, and actually, you know what? She's going to look at her, and she's going to roll
Yes.
something.
There we go. Here, look it.
And, oh, well, I will say that she has activated Auspex, but I don't know. It's either one or it's two successes. Yeah, it's two.
And what is she
Um,
doing?
she is reading your aura.
Ooh, give me
So
one moment here.
she just gets the dominant emotion, I think.
Main color. Um, this is a good question. Jesus, that is a really good question. Um, I might have to mix and match. God. Sorry. I'm sitting here looking at the list going, how the fuck do I, with the list I have here?
I don't know if that list is all there is. I find it somewhat lacking sometimes, out of character.
It is somewhat lacking. I am just going to say that it will come out to her being some combination of, I don't want to use the word calm because it's not in a good way.
Reserved, distant.
Yeah, essentially reserved or distant is a good term, and let's see. I won't go for crazy patterns, but we'll say that there is a tinge there of mild agitation that probably kind of accompanies the gestures that she's making.
Hmm. Garland has never been one for doing great plans, I will admit. But I assisted as I must. We must assist each other when the time is, well, there for doing it. But I assume that you mean something different when you say that you did it wrong or seem uncharacteristically non-chipper.
And why should we assist even if he is doing it wrong?
Well, if you do not defend well, the other members of the city, why would they defend you?
And she'll actually like flick her eyes up and cease blinking for the moment. But would they?
I have found that it is, when mutually guaranteed, actually quite often that you will be defended. So I would say yes. There are no guarantees, of course, but
She kind of rolls her head to the side a bit, rolls it back again. I think that for when they do this right, my not helping now means I can help more then.
perhaps. I do not believe any of them will notice it. To be honest, they have other things to consider at the moment. But please, let us move on. And she kind of holds out a hand.
She considers it for a moment rather than her usual, just kind of carelessly taking it up, but does in fact finally offer her own.
Hmm. And Madeline will begin to walk, and she has like her smile on her face, and she seems quite relaxed actually.
I'm trying to consider how this would change her gestures. She will just probably take with the spare hand because she doesn't have a way to readily prop it up by her head with the other hand taken. Just continues fiddling with the ends of her hair as they're walking. It's the only real bit of the usual overflow of energy, really, is in fidgeting instead of in every motion. And as they walk, I will let you P&A her because that seems like the most legit way to do it.
P and E, right? Not P and A.
No, perception alertness. Dun dun dun.
Dum, dum, dum,
Because
dum.
it's a visible thing instead of an emotion thing.
Dice roller. Dice roller.
You know, it occurs to me I've never seen someone type out roll before.
Oh, I think that can also. Okay. Uh,
That's still like what, 4 successes? Jesus.
I don't know why I roll so well, and then
Um,
just
then yeah, she'll totally catch it. She's a little fidgety. The fingers don't ever stop moving, playing with her hair. But more than that, it might have been difficult to catch because she was walking alongside her. But apparently, Sister Madeline is insanely observant. So she will notice that while the swatting stops, she still will be now and again glancing sharply in seemingly random directions, as if responding to hearing something, seeing something, as if something is tweaking her to look.
hmm.
It's not very pronounced, but it is certainly something that she's going to pick up with 4 fucking successes. Jesus Christ. Just blow my subtlety out of the water.
That's how it goes sometimes. And Madeline just, for the moment, she doesn't say anything. Well, to start with, she doesn't say anything. And she, at some point, she will just look to her and just say, "So, tell me, do you hear something or see something, or what is it? How is it affecting you?"
She just grows tight lipped for a moment, just kind of firm into a thin line. Though her hand remains as readily clasped as it was a moment ago. She will actually kind of start to part her lips to answer and then swallow it, essentially. And just stay very uncharacteristically quiet instead.
Do not worry. The knowledge, the what you must go through. I do not mean to steal your strength or your insights from this. I am only mostly curious what it is like. Do you see more than me? Or is there, if it unnerves you, I would wish to help you, wish to try to calm your nerves as much as possible.
And that kind of false smile of hers finally touches to her lips. It's not broad and wide, it's a much smaller expression. I always see more. I saw that that was the wrong way.
in the way the
I-
situation was handled?
There's so many better ways.
Well, that is.
Grandfather is not like that.
Hmm, I do not believe any of us could say exactly what he is like or what he is not like.
Saw
Hmm,
more, felt himself holding himself under his skin.
I wonder, do you think yourself capable of being friends with him? Or are you merely respecting him by keeping unfriendly terms?
Your head rolls back a bit in thought, that kind of thoughtless glance upwards. I like understanding what other people don't, and seeing what they don't, and hearing what they don't. Because it means I see and hear and understand more. It's like everyone who has so much trouble with their horses, with their dogs. They don't listen. She kind of taps the rim of her ear with her free hand. They don't know how.
I would remind you that depending on what it is, consulting or being around it would be frowned upon, or worse. And that sometimes there are no better ways, there are no ways to negotiate. And it seemed quite unwilling to negotiate. It wanted to do what it wanted and bringing the silence into danger. That cannot continue. That cannot go on.
And a twisted kind of smile curls up one corner of her lips. I am rarely in a mood to negotiate. When I am greeted with tackling and assault on my person, it could have been done better. There's too much. It barely stays under his skin.
You are correct. There would be, it would probably be a quite good idea to keep a certain distance to him.
And finally, that little the glint that was perhaps a bit colder before when she was watching the shadows shift. It returns, albeit a little more lively. There's finally some proper expression in her eyes.
I wonder, are you angry with me?
No,
Well, that is good to hear.
no, just thinking.
This is always good.
They brought his insides outside.
Hmm.
And his
But what
insides are
is...
dangerous.
Yes, his insides seem to be capable of burning any of us quite effectively, which means that one should keep very, very good distance to him.
And she continues mulling, but finally takes up kind of a very self-satisfied little smile. And while she's still doing the occasional little flick of a glance here or there for whatever reason, she's she's growing that slow, too much of a grin again. Her steps get a little less rigid, a little less straight. It's okay. I bet he only knows how to play one game anyways.
Quite so. He was adamant that he continue whatever he was doing. So, whatever the reason, he seems to be stuck doing it.
Perhaps next time we bring people who know how to play a different game.
Hmm. If I could choose, I would always bring someone else than Garland. He is a bit of a fool, in my opinion, but if only we had more of your caliber. And she kind of just tussles her hair a bit and smiles and just says, anyways.
Yes. Molly gives her head a shake, as if trying to clear it. Doesn't seem to mind the tousling at all.
So, do you have any other plans for tonight?
No. I was hoping to walk with grandfather and talk to him.
Hmm. I have a feeling it will take perhaps some time, but not too long. You will be able to do so again.
She finally fires a side glance, this time distinctly at Madeline, rather than off in a random direction. You said it could be breaking the rules. Do we know?
Well, people keep their distance, but if enough children disappear from one place, it will cause problems.
Hmm. But I would not be in trouble for my walk if we don't know what he is.
No, but I trust that Garnet has told you what happens with kindred who associate with certain other entities, yes?
And she just kind of cracks a grin. I'm usually just not allowed.
For a good reason. Those who are, you do know that infernalists are put to the sword quite swiftly without any discussion, yes? And if this thing, which might be what I fear it is, well, consider yourself. I would I would do my best to avoid it in the future. If someone finds out what this thing is, and it is what I fear it is, someone who might hurt you or might want to hurt Garnet might call you an infernalist.
It wouldn't be very nice.
No, but it is a powerful argument, especially if there is something around this city that is indeed not of our making. I would at least have you consider this.
She mulls it, doesn't argue it. So she finally kind of playfully brings a finger up to poke at her chin, just to reinforce that I'm thinking so good. So we don't even want to know our enemy. We shall just take guesses and leap off of rooftops.
No, but what we do is we consult those who are more wise than us. We find those who are better at dealing with these things, with more knowledge of them, consult them, have them hmm,
Grin gets
devise,
playfully toothy. And where do they
devise
get the
suspected.
knowledge?
Why? Through other means. Books, old scriptures, experience, things gleaned from abilities that you and I do not possess.
And she holds that toothy grin for a couple moments, especially over like books. There's probably the distinct impression that she's tempted to be like, and where did they learn it to put in the book? But that is just a circle that will never end.
Hmm.
Excuse me a moment.
Madeline just smiles at her, just, I wish to hold the youth of spirit as you do, dear Mina.
The crooked grin returns. It's more fun than the alternative. And again, she much as she glances here and there and elsewhere, she'll periodically take glances up to her eyes. Again, not looking her in the eye per se, just glancing up. I think you could if you wanted. But it is hard to be an important, prominent lady and act like me. She just grins at the jab. Self inflicted.
Perhaps we should take a day, just to confuse everyone, where we shift the ways we act. I act like you and you act like me. Think of the look on their faces.
Oh, that would be fun.
Another game.
That would be a fun game.
Hmm.
It would.
Indeed it would.
And she rolls in her lips for a moment as they walk. I meant to ask, next time we have a lesson, is there a middle ground that we can go to?
In what
Because
respect?
my darling brother has taught me, at the very least, to keep my home to myself. And
Oh,
has more lately taught me of why you should let others keep their homes to themselves.
hmm. You can always visit me in Timaran. The gardens there are quite lovely. An excellent place. Pretty cheap.
And a brow quirks. An open place.
Hmm. I am seneschal, Timaran.
She takes to tapping lightly at her chin, so seriously mulling it over. You don't see a lot of gardens out here, do you?
No, it is a shame.
Miss the green.
If you do, you must simply must come, and I will show you around in my garden.
And again, it's a playful gesture, but it's just not ramped up to its full potential as she, brings the hand up to her chest like, oh, I must, essentially. And we'll
Mhm.
probably say just that.
Indeed, you must.
We'll see if my darling brother and dear teacher think well of me leaving the city.
Hmm. Well, you can always invite him. You are both free to come.
Oh,
Yes, indeed you are.
even to our lessons. The eyebrows quirk up.
I do not understand. Well, I do not see any reason for him to come. I would think that he has quite a few things to take, well, use his time for, but if you are, if you would like him to come, he can come.
Just wanted to put my finger on what exactly you meant.
Well, if you come to Timuran, I would welcome you both and host you, but, well, if it is merely for our lessons, mm, perhaps there is another place within Edessa that would be more fitting. Hmm. I will have to give this thought. I do not know if I have a specific place in mind at the moment, but I will find one.
I know I am inconveniencing you when you are already doing me a favor,
Hmm. It is
but I
quite
am learning the value of neutral ground.
quite so. Well, then perhaps it is you who will find it.
Oh, she finally splits with what's almost up to par for a smile. I know
If
a lot
they,
of abandoned places, but I don't know that you'd want to go in them.
hmm, I am quite fine with it. Although I shouldn't be, but well, the last people who ambushed me in an abandoned place were met with final death. So
Exciting.
it wasn't, but it would sound that way, I suppose.
Did they even have enough time to understand to be afraid?
You know of the beast and what it does when you fall to it. They were not totally gone, but they were so far gone that certain certain things were lost on them.
Oh, that's a shame.
I think they were afraid. They ran as soon as I escaped, but
Hmm.
well, they were
Oh,
hunted down and killed.
well, the lips roll in, and she'll finally actually jerk off a glance in a direction and pause her stride for just like a half beat, but it's enough to be distracting. And she'll finally I mean it's only half a beat. She'll start walking again and she'll give the offered hand a very light squeeze. I should go home.
Mm. I suppose I should as well return to my duties. As always, it has been a very good pleasure to spend time with you, dear Miss Mina. And please send my regards to your brother.
Of course.
And Madeline and Mina will go their separate ways, I believe.
They will. They will. She'll spare a glance over her shoulder as they part ways. Just kind of studying the moving figure for a moment in general, comparing the silhouette she gets to that inky blotch, that strange span she saw. But this time finally um outright slapping a hand up over her ear and shooting an annoyed glance off to the side, she'll hasten uh, off in the appropriate direction. And with that, I dare say, and say thank you, players, for playing and watchers for watching. We'll see you next time on Edessa, the Dark Crusade.